The baby had been crying so long that Caleb Mercer feared the sound would break something inside him that could never be repaired. He stood alone on the porch of his small ranch house, holding his 3-month-old son against his chest while the cold Montana wind swept across the empty fields. The evening sky burned red above the distant hills, but Caleb did not notice its beauty. His eyes were fixed on little Owen, whose face had turned red from crying. Caleb rocked him gently. He walked from one end of the porch to the other. He whispered every kind word he could think of, but the child only cried harder. "Please, son," Caleb said, his tired voice shaking. "Your father is trying." 3 months earlier, Caleb's wife, Rebecca, had died only hours after giving birth. Since that terrible night, the ranch house had felt like a place where life had stopped. Her blue shawl still hung beside the door. Her sewing basket still rested near the window. Caleb had not moved either one. He could mend a broken fence in a snowstorm. He could calm a frightened horse and work from sunrise until the stars filled the sky. But when Owen cried, Caleb felt helpless. The baby needed more than food and clean clothes. He needed warmth. He needed patience. He needed the gentle care Caleb feared he did not know how to give. As darkness slowly spread across Red Willow Valley, Caleb noticed a figure walking along the dusty road toward the ranch. At first, he thought it was a boy. The stranger was thin and carried a small bundle over one shoulder. But as the figure came closer, Caleb saw a young woman wearing a faded brown dress and a green scarf over her dark hair. Her boots were covered in dust. One sleeve of her dress had been repaired with rough thread. Her face looked pale from hunger, but her eyes were bright and watchful. She stopped outside the wooden gate. "I am sorry to trouble you," she said. Caleb held Owen closer. "What do you need?" The young woman looked at the ground before answering. "Food, if you have any to spare. I have not eaten since yesterday morning." Caleb studied her carefully. People did not walk alone across the Montana frontier without a reason. Some were running from trouble. Others brought trouble with them. "I do not keep much extra," he said. "I understand." She turned away without arguing. Then Owen let out another sharp cry. The woman stopped. She looked back at the baby, and something in her expression changed. The fear in her eyes disappeared. In its place came a deep sadness Caleb did not understand. "He has been crying for a while," she said softly. Caleb's jaw tightened. "He cries every evening. May I come closer?" Caleb hesitated, but Owen's cries were growing weaker from exhaustion. The woman slowly entered the gate. She did not reach for the child. She only stood a few feet away and watched Caleb hold him. "You are keeping his head too far from your shoulder," she said gently. "He may feel like he is falling." Caleb adjusted Owen, but the baby continued crying. The woman swallowed nervously. "May I hold him?" Caleb looked at her worn clothes and empty hands. He knew nothing about her. Still, there was no greed in her face. There was only concern for the child. After a long moment, Caleb placed Owen in her arms. She held the baby close, supporting his head with one hand. Then she began to hum a quiet tune. Owen's cries became softer. The woman moved slowly from side to side. She rubbed the baby's back and whispered something Caleb could not hear. Within a minute, Owen stopped crying. The silence shocked Caleb more than the crying had. His son rested against the stranger's chest, breathing peacefully. Caleb stared at her. "How did you do that?" "He was frightened," she replied. "Babies can feel when the person holding them is frightened too." Caleb looked away, ashamed. The woman noticed. "That does not mean you are a bad father," she said. "It means you are tired." No one had spoken to Caleb with such kindness since Rebecca died. "What is your name?" he asked. "Lily Bennett." "Where are you going, Miss Bennett?" Her eyes moved toward the dark road behind her. "I do not know." The answer made Caleb uneasy. "You have no family." "Not anymore." She said the words quickly, but pain passed over her face. Owen moved in her arms and caught one of her fingers in his tiny hand. Lily looked down at him, and her lips trembled. Caleb saw tears forming in her eyes. "You have cared for a baby before," he said. Lily nodded. My younger sister had a little girl. I helped raise her. Where are they now? Lily's face became still. Gone. Caleb did not ask more. The wind grew colder. Lily carefully handed Owen back to him and pulled her thin scarf tighter around her neck. Thank you for letting me hold him, she said. I should leave before it gets darker. Caleb looked toward the road. The nearest town was nearly 10 miles away. Wolves had been heard near the northern ridge, and the night would soon become bitterly cold. You will not reach Red Willow before midnight, he said. I have slept outside before. That does not make it safe. Lily gave him a small, sad smile. Safe places are hard to find. She took one step toward the gate. Owen began crying again. Lily stopped, but she did not turn around. Caleb looked at his son, then at the lonely road. He knew he should let the stranger go. He knew inviting her inside could bring questions from neighbors. He knew nothing about her past. But he also knew the ranch house was slowly swallowing him and his son in grief. Lily turned back. I can work, she said quickly. I can cook, clean, mend clothes, milk cows, gather eggs, and tend a garden. I do not need money. Caleb remained silent. Her voice became desperate. I only need a roof. He watched her hands shake from cold. I cannot offer much, he said. I am not asking for much. Owen cried against Caleb's shoulder. Lily looked at the child, then straight into Caleb's tired eyes. Let me stay, she begged. I'll raise your son. The words hung between them in the cold evening air. Caleb felt his heart pound. You would care for a stranger's child. Lily's eyes filled with tears. No child should grow up feeling that no one is there when he cries. Caleb studied her face. There was a story behind those words, but she was not ready to tell it. What do you want in return? He asked. A place to sleep, food when there is enough, nothing else. Caleb looked down at Owen. The baby had reached one tiny hand toward Lily. It felt as if his son had already made the choice. You can stay tonight, Caleb said. Tomorrow we will talk again. Relief passed across Lily's face so strongly that she nearly lost her balance. Thank you. Caleb opened the door and let her inside. The ranch house was dark and cold. Lily looked around at the untouched sewing basket, the blue shawl, and the dusty table. She understood at once that another woman had once filled the house with life. I will not try to replace her, Lily said quietly. Caleb looked at her in surprise. You could not. I know. Her answer held no anger. That night, Lily warmed milk for Owen, cleaned the small kitchen, and made a bed for herself near the stove. Caleb watched from the doorway as she rocked his son and sang the same soft song she had sung outside. For the first time in many weeks, Owen slept through the night. When Caleb woke before sunrise, the smell of warm bread filled the house. Lily stood beside the stove, her sleeves rolled up. Owen rested in a wooden cradle near her feet. The floor had been swept, the fire was burning, and 2 plates waited on the table. Caleb stopped in the doorway. For one brief moment, the house felt alive again. Lily looked at him nervously. I found flour in the cupboard. I hope you do not mind. Caleb sat down without speaking. He took one bite of the warm bread and lowered his eyes. Rebecca used to make bread every morning. The memory hurt, but it did not feel as sharp as before. Lily noticed his silence. I can leave after breakfast if you changed your mind. Caleb looked toward Owen, who slept peacefully beside the fire. No, he said, you can stay. Lily let out a slow breath. But there is one condition, Caleb added. Fear returned to her face. You will not sleep on the floor. There is a small room beside the kitchen, and if you work here, you will eat at this table. You are not a servant. Lily stared at him as though no one had ever offered her such respect. Why are you being kind to me? Caleb looked at his sleeping son. Because you were kind to him first. Over the next several days, Lily brought order back to the ranch house. She washed clothes, repaired Owen's blankets, cooked simple meals, and cleaned the dust from the windows. She found an old cradle in the barn and repaired its broken side with pieces of smooth wood. Owen soon smiled whenever Lily entered the room. Caleb began returning from work earlier just to hear his son laugh. One evening he stood outside the kitchen window and watched Lily hold Owen near the fire. She was smiling, but tears rolled down her face. Caleb stepped inside. "What is wrong?" Lily quickly wiped her cheeks. "Nothing. That is not true." She looked at Owen for a long moment. "He reminds me of someone I could not save." Before Caleb could ask who, the sound of approaching horses came from the road. Lily's face turned white. She moved to the window and saw 3 riders stopping at the ranch gate. The man in front wore a black coat and a silver watch chain. When he looked toward the house, Lily took one frightened step backward. Caleb saw terror fill her eyes. "You know him," he said. Lily held Owen tightly against her chest. "Yes," she whispered, "and if he finds me here, he will destroy everything." Caleb stepped between Lily and the window as the 3 riders tied their horses near the gate. "Who is he?" Caleb asked. Lily held Owen close, but her hands were shaking so badly that the baby began to stir. "His name is Victor Hale," she whispered. "He owns one of the largest ranches near Stone Creek. I worked in his house for 2 years." Caleb glanced toward the door. "Why is he looking for you?" Lily lowered her eyes. "Because he says I stole from him." "Did you?" "No." Her answer came quickly, but fear still filled her face. Caleb watched her carefully. During the weeks she had stayed at his ranch, she had never taken so much as an extra piece of bread without asking. She worked before sunrise and often continued long after dark. Nothing about her seemed dishonest. A hard knock struck the front door. Owen woke and began to cry. Caleb reached for the baby, but Lily shook her head. "I can calm him." The knock came again, louder this time. "Caleb Mercer," a man called from outside, "open this door." Caleb's jaw tightened. He crossed the room and pulled the door open. Victor Hale stood on the porch wearing a black coat, polished boots, and a wide hat that looked too expensive for the dusty frontier. He was around 50, with silver at his temples and cold gray eyes. 2 armed ranch hands waited behind him. Victor looked past Caleb and saw Lily standing near the stove. A slow smile crossed his face. "There you are." Lily stepped backward. "You have no right to be here." Victor ignored her and looked at Caleb. "That woman is a thief." Caleb did not move. "She says she is not." Victor laughed softly. "Of course she does. Thieves rarely admit what they are." "What did she steal?" $300 from my office and a gold necklace that belonged to my late wife. Lily's face burned with anger. "I never touched that money or the necklace." Victor removed a folded paper from his coat. "I have a signed statement from my foreman. He saw her leave the house on the same night the money disappeared." Lily looked at Caleb. "I left because I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" Caleb asked. She opened her mouth, but no words came. Victor smiled again. "She ran because she knew she had been caught." Caleb studied Lily's face. She looked frightened but not guilty. "You can speak inside," Caleb said. "The baby does not need cold air coming through the door." Victor stepped forward, but Caleb blocked him. "I invited you to speak. I did not invite your men." Victor's smile disappeared. The 2 ranch hands shifted their hands near their belts. Caleb remained still. After a tense moment, Victor told them to wait outside. He entered the cabin and removed his gloves. His eyes moved over the clean floor, the warm fire, and the sleeping blankets beside the cradle. "I see you have found another home to enter," he said to Lily. Caleb closed the door. "Choose your words carefully." Victor turned toward him. "You do not know her. I know what she has done here. You know what she wanted you to see." Lily placed Owen in the cradle and faced Victor. "Tell him why I left." Victor's eyes narrowed. You left because you stole from me. Tell him about your foreman. The room became silent. Victor's expression changed for only a second, but Caleb noticed it. What about him? Victor asked. Lily took a slow breath. His name was Russell Dean. He followed me for months. He waited outside my room. He tried to touch me when no one was near. When I told him to stop, he said no one would believe a homeless servant over a respected foreman. Victor looked toward the window. That is a serious claim. You knew. I knew nothing. You saw the bruises on my wrist. Victor's face hardened. You are trying to avoid the truth. Lily stepped closer. Russell asked me to marry him. When I refused, he told me he would make sure I had nowhere to go. The next morning, your money was missing, and he said he saw me near your office. Caleb looked at Victor. Did you search her things? Yes. And did you find the money? No. The necklace? No. Victor gave a cold shrug. She had time to hide them. Lily's eyes filled with tears. I had one dress, one blanket, and a Bible. There was nowhere to hide anything. Victor picked up his gloves. I did not come here to argue. I came to take her back to Stone Creek. The sheriff will deal with her. Lily's face turned pale. Caleb stood in front of the door. She is not going anywhere tonight. Victor stared at him. You are protecting a criminal. I am protecting a woman from being dragged away without proof. I have a witness. You have a man she accused of hurting her. Victor stepped closer. You should think about your son. A thief living under your roof could bring danger to him. Caleb's eyes became cold. Do not speak about my son. The warning in his voice made Victor stop. For a moment, neither man moved. Then Victor placed his hat back on his head. I will return with the sheriff tomorrow morning. If she is still here, you may answer for helping her escape. He opened the door and walked out. The two ranch hands followed him to the horses. Within moments, all three riders disappeared into the darkness. Lily stood beside the cradle, unable to speak. Caleb shut the door and turned toward her. Why did you not tell me? I thought you would send me away. You should have trusted me. I have trusted people before. Caleb heard the pain in her words and lowered his voice. Is everything you said true? Yes. Then we will prove it. Lily shook her head. Victor owns half the land around Stone Creek. The sheriff eats at his table. No one will believe me. I believe you. She stared at him. Those three words seemed to weaken her knees. She sat beside the cradle and covered her face with both hands. Caleb wanted to comfort her, but he did not know how. He had spent so long hiding from his own pain that another person's tears frightened him. He placed one hand on her shoulder. You are not alone now. Lily looked up at him. You do not know what it means to hear that. Caleb's hand remained on her shoulder. For the first time, he noticed how tired she looked. She had worked every day without complaint while carrying fear that could have returned at any moment. Owen made a soft sound in the cradle. Lily reached down and touched his cheek. I should leave before morning, she said. If I go tonight, Victor may leave you alone. No. Caleb, he can ruin your ranch. He can try. He can take your cattle, block your water, or tell every buyer not to deal with you. Caleb looked around the small cabin. This ranch was nearly empty before you came. My son cried every night. I barely ate. I worked because stopping meant thinking about Rebecca. He looked at Lily. You gave this place life again. I will not throw you into the cold because a rich man tells me to. Tears gathered in her eyes. Why? Caleb looked toward Owen. Because family does not leave when trouble reaches the gate. Lily's lips parted, but she could not answer. That night, neither of them slept much. Before sunrise, Caleb saddled his horse and rode toward Stone Creek. Lily begged him not to go, but he refused to remain helpless. The town was already busy when he arrived. Victor's men had spread the story. People stood outside the general store whispering as Caleb passed. He went first to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Daniel Price sat behind a wooden desk, reading Victor's statement. "You are making a mistake," Daniel said. "Have you seen proof she stole anything?" "I have a witness. Russell Dean." Daniel nodded. "Where is he?" The sheriff hesitated. "Dead." Caleb leaned forward. "When?" "2 weeks ago, fever." Then Victor's only witness cannot answer questions. Daniel folded the statement. "That does not make Lily innocent. It does not make her guilty either." The sheriff stood. "I will ride to your ranch before noon. She can explain herself in town." Caleb knew arguing would change nothing. He left the office and walked toward the boarding house where Lily had once lived. An older woman answered the door. Her name was Martha Cole, and she remembered Lily clearly. "She was quiet," Martha said, "paid what she could, never caused trouble." "Did she ever mention Russell Dean?" Martha's face changed. "She came here one night with a torn sleeve and bruises on her arm. She was frightened, but she would not say who hurt her." "Did anyone else see?" Martha thought for a moment. "There was a cook at the Hale Ranch named Abigail Turner. She was close to Lily." "Where is she now?" "Victor dismissed her after Lily disappeared. I heard she moved to Cedar Falls." Caleb thanked her and hurried back to his horse. Cedar Falls was nearly a day's ride away. The sheriff would reach the ranch before Caleb could find Abigail. He turned his horse toward home. When he reached the edge of Stone Creek, an old man stepped into the road and raised one hand. Caleb stopped. The man wore a dirty coat and leaned heavily on a cane. "You are looking for the truth about Lily Bennett," the old man said. Caleb's hand moved near his rifle. "Who are you?" "My name is Samuel Reed. I kept the books at Victor Hale's ranch." "Do you know what happened?" Samuel looked nervously toward town. "I know the money was never stolen." Caleb's heart began to pound. "Then where did it go?" "Russell Dean took it. He changed the records and blamed Lily." "Can you prove that?" Samuel reached inside his coat and pulled out a small leather book. "I copied the missing pages before Victor ordered the main ledger burned." Caleb took the book. "Why did you wait?" "Because Victor threatened my daughter." Caleb looked down at the pages. They showed money moved from Victor's office to a private account controlled by Russell. "This can clear Lily." Samuel shook his head. "It can help, but Victor will say I wrote it myself." "Is there anything else?" The old man looked toward the hills. "Russell left a letter before he died. He gave it to Abigail Turner." Caleb's hope rose. "Where is she?" "She is not in Cedar Falls." "Then where?" Samuel's voice fell to a whisper. "She is riding to your ranch right now." Caleb turned his horse at once and raced home. But when the ranch came into view, his heart stopped. The front door stood open. The cradle was overturned on the porch. Sheriff Daniel's horse was tied near the gate. And Lily and Owen were gone. Caleb jumped from his horse before it had fully stopped. He ran through the open gate and nearly fell over the broken cradle lying across the porch. One side had split from the fall, and Owen's small blanket rested in the dirt. "Lily," Caleb shouted. No answer came from inside the house. He rushed through the doorway. A chair had been knocked over near the table. One of Lily's dresses was gone, but her small cloth bundle still rested beside the stove. She had not left by choice. Sheriff Daniel Price stepped out of the back room. Caleb grabbed the front of his coat. "Where are they?" Daniel pushed his hands away. "Calm down. My son is missing. Do not tell me to calm down." Lily agreed to come into town. She would never leave Owen's blanket in the dirt. Daniel's face tightened. "Victor Hale arrived before I did. He claimed Lily tried to run when she saw him. His men helped place her in a wagon. And you allowed him to take my son." Daniel looked toward the overturned cradle. Victor said the child could not be left alone. Caleb stared at him in disbelief. You gave my son to the man who threatened Lily. I told them to wait for me on the road, but they rode toward Stone Creek before I could stop them. Caleb turned and reached for his rifle. Daniel stepped in front of him. You cannot ride into town shooting people. Move. If you go angry, Victor will use it against you. Caleb looked at the sheriff with eyes filled with pain. If anything happens to Owen, there will be nothing left for him to use against me. A horse came racing toward the ranch before Daniel could answer. A woman in a gray dress rode through the gate. She was older than Lily, with silver in her brown hair and a leather bag tied behind her saddle. She climbed down quickly. Are you Caleb Mercer? Yes. My name is Abigail Turner. Caleb remembered Samuel Reed's words. You have Russell Dean's letter. Abigail nodded. I have more than a letter. She opened the leather bag and removed several folded papers, a small gold necklace, and a sealed envelope. Daniel looked at the necklace. That belongs to Victor's late wife. Abigail held it tightly. Russell hid it beneath a loose floorboard in his room. He gave me the location before he died. Why, Caleb asked. Because he was afraid of dying with what he had done. Abigail handed the sealed envelope to Daniel. He confessed that he stole Victor's money and necklace. He wrote that he blamed Lily because she refused to marry him. Daniel broke the seal and read the letter. As his eyes moved across the page, shame appeared on his face. Caleb stepped closer. Is it enough? Daniel nodded slowly. It carries Russell's signature, and Abigail witnessed it. I also brought the stolen money records, Abigail said. Samuel Reed gave me copies months ago. I kept them hidden because Victor threatened everyone who questioned him. Caleb turned toward his horse. Then we ride to Stone Creek. Daniel folded the letter and placed it inside his coat. This time I am riding with you. The three of them hurried toward town. Caleb pushed his horse harder than he ever had before. Every second brought terrible pictures into his mind. He imagined Owen crying in a strange wagon. He imagined Lily being locked in a cell. He imagined reaching them too late. The sun had nearly disappeared when Stone Creek came into view. A crowd had gathered outside the sheriff's office. Victor stood near the wooden steps, speaking loudly to the townspeople. Lily stood beside the jail door with her hands tied in front of her. One of Victor's men held Owen, who was crying and reaching toward her. She came into our valley pretending to be helpless, Victor told the crowd. She entered a grieving man's home and used his child to gain his trust. That is a lie, Lily said. Victor turned toward her. You stole from me, and now you tried to hide behind another family. Lily looked at Owen. I never stole anything. Several people in the crowd began whispering. A woman shook her head. She should have been arrested weeks ago. Another man said, people like her bring trouble wherever they go. Lily lowered her eyes. She had heard such words her whole life. Without money or family, she knew how easily people believed the worst. Owen cried harder. Please give him to me, Lily begged. Victor's ranch hand held the baby away from her. You have no right to that child. Lily's face broke with pain. I cared for him every day. He is frightened. The sound of horses suddenly filled the street. The crowd turned as Caleb, Daniel, and Abigail rode into town. Caleb jumped down and pushed through the people. Owen. His son turned at the sound of his voice and reached toward him. Caleb took the baby from Victor's ranch hand. He pressed Owen against his chest and closed his eyes for one brief moment. You are safe, he whispered. Your father is here. Then he looked at Lily. Her wrists were red from the rope. Caleb crossed the street and untied her hands. Victor stepped forward. She is under arrest. No, Sheriff, Daniel said. The town became silent. Daniel stood on the steps and held up Russell's letter. I have a signed confession from Russell Dean. He admitted stealing Victor Hale's money and the gold necklace. Abigail raised the necklace so everyone could see it. I found this where Russell said he hid it. Victor's face lost its color. That proves nothing. Daniel opened the letter. It says Russell framed Lily Bennett because she refused his marriage offer. It also says you learned the truth before his death. People in the crowd began looking at Victor. Lily stared at him. You knew. Victor's eyes moved from Daniel to Abigail. Russell was sick. He did not know what he was writing. I was there, Abigail said. His mind was clear. He begged me to find Lily and tell her he was sorry. Victor pointed at her. You were dismissed from my ranch. Your word means nothing. Samuel Reed's voice came from behind the crowd. Then perhaps mine does. The old bookkeeper walked slowly into the street, leaning on his cane. He held up the leather book he had shown Caleb. These records prove Russell moved the stolen money. Victor ordered me to burn the main ledger after learning the truth. Daniel turned toward Victor. Did you order the records destroyed? Victor said nothing. The silence answered for him. Samuel looked at the townspeople. Victor did not care whether Lily was innocent. He cared only that the truth would make his ranch look weak. A murmur of anger spread through the crowd. The same people who had judged Lily now looked ashamed. Victor stepped backward. You are all believing the word of servants and beggars. Caleb moved in front of Lily. I believe the woman who cared for my son when no one else came near my door. Victor glared at him. She used you. No, Caleb said. She saved us. Owen stopped crying when Lily touched his hand. Caleb looked around at the townspeople. When Lily came to my ranch, she had no food, no home, and no reason to trust anyone. She could have walked away from a broken man and a crying baby. Instead, she stayed. His voice became stronger. She worked without asking for anything. She brought warmth back into my house. She gave my son comfort. She reminded me that grief did not have to be the end of my life. Lily covered her mouth as tears ran down her face. Caleb looked at Victor. You saw a homeless woman and thought she was easy to destroy. I saw someone stronger than every person who spoke against her. Daniel walked down the steps. Victor Hale, you are under arrest for hiding evidence and helping make a false charge. Victor's ranch hands stepped away from him. Neither man was willing to defend him now. Daniel placed iron cuffs around Victor's wrists. As the sheriff led him toward the jail, Victor looked back at Lily. You will always be nothing. Caleb stepped toward him, but Lily gently touched Caleb's arm. She looked directly at Victor. I was nothing to you, she said. That does not mean I am nothing. Victor had no answer. The townspeople slowly began approaching Lily. The woman who had spoken against her lowered her head. We were wronged. Another neighbor said, we should have asked for the truth before judging you. Lily listened but did not smile. Their apologies could not erase every cruel word, but she no longer needed their approval to know who she was. Owen reached toward her. Caleb placed the baby in her arms. The child pressed his face against her shoulder and became quiet. Lily held him tightly. I thought I had lost him, she whispered. Caleb looked into her eyes. You will never lose him. Owen lifted his head and touched Lily's cheek. Then he spoke one small, clear word. Mama. Lily froze. The whole street became silent. Owen smiled and said it again. Mama. Tears fell from Lily's eyes as she kissed his small forehead. Caleb felt his own eyes burn. He knows who stayed when he cried, he said. They returned to the ranch that night. The cabin no longer felt like a house trapped in the past. Rebecca's blue shawl still hung beside the door, and her sewing basket still rested near the window. Lily never asked Caleb to remove them. Instead, she helped him remember Rebecca without being destroyed by the memory. Weeks passed, and winter covered Red Willow Valley in white snow. Caleb repaired the broken cradle, but Owen had already begun pulling himself up and laughing whenever Lily entered the room. One evening, Lily stood beside the fire sewing a small shirt for him. Caleb watched her from across the table. "You once asked why I was kind to you," he said. Lily looked up. "I remembered. I did not understand the answer then. And now." Caleb walked toward her. "You came to my door asking for a home. I think God sent you because Owen and I needed one too." Lily's eyes filled with tears. Caleb took her hand. "I cannot promise you an easy life. The ranch will always demand work. There will be storms, hard seasons, and days when grief returns." He paused. "But I can promise you will never face them alone." Lily looked toward Owen, sleeping peacefully near the fire. "What are you asking me?" Caleb reached into his pocket and removed a simple silver ring that had belonged to his mother. "I am asking you to stay, not as someone who works here, but as my wife and Owen's mother." Lily cried before she could answer. "Yes," she whispered, "I will stay." They were married in the spring beneath a large cottonwood tree beside the ranch. Wildflowers covered the valley, and the mountains stood bright beneath the morning sun. Abigail and Samuel attended the small ceremony. Sheriff Daniel stood beside Caleb, and several townspeople brought food and gifts as a quiet way of showing their regret. Owen sat in Lily's arms, laughing as Caleb placed the ring on her finger. Years later, people in Red Willow Valley still told the story of the hungry woman who arrived at a lonely ranch with nothing but a cloth bundle and a brave heart. They remembered the 7 words she spoke when everyone expected Caleb to send her away. "Let me stay, I'll raise your son." But only Caleb and Lily understood the full truth. She had not only raised his son. She had raised a broken father from his grief, built a family from 2 lonely hearts, and changed his life forever.